Hi guys, welcome back to We Are Gonna Talk About It. So most people have been asking how they can support this podcast, and I have a small request. At the back end of YouTube, only 56% of those who watch have followed. So my small request is that whoever's been enjoying this content, whoever's been watching, engaging, please go and follow. It's like a donation of a sort. That's the smallest support I can ask for at this moment. Today we are going to be exploring a fundamental topic, grief and healing, and we are with the one and only Kabera Angel, a poet, a poet, a thinker. For those who have engaged your work, know this. For those who have not, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I feel like you've said everything. But yeah, I'm a storyteller. I don't know, a thinker. That's the first time someone has introduced me as a thinker. But I'm a storyteller, a poet, a journalist, communications professional. Yeah, I take on many roles, but at the core of everything that I do, it's storytelling.
Amazing. So as we dive into the topic of grief and healing, I wanted to first get something like a background insight of, I've seen you perform these songs in Jabala, what? I don't know if Jabala is a song, but yeah, the various performances you've had. And I wanted to ask, what was your favorite performance? The favorite like song you've enjoyed doing the most?
Oh, I think it's Grandpa and Kaka. Yeah. Have you had Grandpa and Kaka?
No.
So first of all, it's a poem. So it's a song poem, and Grandpa and Kaka is about my grandparents' love story. And why I enjoy performing it is I can see people in the audience sort of get trapped into that narrative, and I see hope in people's eyes. And oftentimes when I'm done, when I get off stage, people are like, man, there's premium sugar in Kampala, but your poem has restored my hope in love. So I really, really love performing that.
Oh, it's about love.
Yeah, it's about
I'm going
love.
to check it out. I'm a fan of love. My favorite would be Ubagai. Yeah, I think I speak for many. Yeah, yeah, but I really loved Ubagai.
Yeah.
I don't know if guys who have not listened to the Ubagai performance, they should check it out. Yeah. It was really an interesting performance. Now, about grief, I wanted to first get, what's your understanding of trauma? You know, it's a word we use these days. The internet, everyone uses a word. I'm traumatized. I have ADHD. But what would be your understanding, a good understanding of trauma in your own perspective?
In my own layman perspective.
Yeah.
Trauma, I think, is an after effect of, I would say, an accident or an incident. Like, for example, if you get an accident, or if I hit you and you get a wound, I'm exerting trauma onto your hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think
so
then
that's
you have to live with the effects of you hitting me.
Yeah, trauma is an effect of a certain experience. And usually it's actually not usually, it is a negative effect of a certain experience.
Yeah.
But I'm not I think it's a very technical term, a very medical term. And because of, social media, pop psychology, we throw around these heavy words when we don't know what they mean.
Yeah, I love pop psychology. Yeah. Now, most people might be wondering, why is it Kabera a poet talking about trauma and grief? It's just psychologist, what's up? But then I saw this story, this TikTok highlight that you had put on, talking about your year in 2024.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired you being the guest for this show. Because you said you told someone this story and they cried. You wanted to even make it a segment and start a podcast out of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? What's the best way to tell this story when there is a platform? Yeah, so that when you start your podcast, people already know, this is the 2024. So like very many people, I don't know the exact details of what happened in 2024. So maybe you'll take us through that.
Yeah. Well, I think the core canon event was my mom's passing. So my mom passed from gastric cancer on the 28th of August, 2024. But she had been sick for 2 years with cancer, right? So from July of 2023 until August of 2024. But then she was also sick with my uncle, who also had colon cancer and also passed shortly after on the 5th of November, 2024. And then I had a mentor of mine, Mr. Lule, he was my mentor, he was my friend, he was my art teacher in high school. So I met him when I was 14, and I think he was like a father figure. I have my biological father is alive and very present. And Mr. Lule was also like a similar father figure in my life, a mentor of some sort, a friend. We would sit in the art room and talk. So around, I think, August as well, he got a stroke, an aneurysm. And then he also passed on the 23rd of December, 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wow is not the right statement to be saying, but I'm very sorry you
Yeah.
had to go through all that.
Yeah, it's the circle of life.
What?
So
That's
that was, and that's just like, that's the shareable part.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
I get.
So in all of that, because death, sickness, illness, disease does not occur in a vacuum. So there was also the trauma of experiencing or watching people you love sort of, waste away, and there's nothing you can do about it. And all of them going, so almost consecutively. It was so fast. August, November, December. So people are going to the village for Christmas, you're in burial. So that was the summary of 2024. There were other things, but I think in regards to grief and healing and all of that, it was surrounding those illnesses and of those individuals.
Now, like many people, I've not experienced grief firsthand. Maybe I've experienced like the normal grief people go through, heartbreak, but not that kind of grief. So you'll forgive me if this question comes out shallow or I was talking to a friend and we're talking about, would you rather have, let me say, someone you care about, have 2 years while they're suffering and sick and then they eventually die? Or would you want it to become, obviously, we're not saying you want it, but if it were to happen, because death is certain for sure.
Yeah.
So would you want it to happen abruptly, like they just tell you this person went through an accident and they are dead? Or would you want to see this person go through, like, let me say, 2 years of being sick so that you're with them? Which one feels more comforting? I know they are both tough choices, but now you had your mom for 2 years.
Yes.
Then you had an uncle who abruptly died.
No, they were sick at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
Now that's tight. Yeah. Would you have wished it to have gone any other way?
No.
Of course, the other way would be not them to die, but between the two options.
I mean, you mean like a slow death vis-a-vis a fast death?
Yes, yeah, that.
I think they're equally really horrible experiences in their own way, And as much as, for example, with my mom, we knew that, this is late stage, so we knew that death is coming. But even with that awareness, with that information, it still shocks you. Like you didn't know, like the science is saying, we have this and this amount of time left. But even when she passes, there's a shock that you have. Mr. Lulez was also a bit sudden, like a quick death. He wasn't sick for so long, but it was still equally heartbreaking and, crushing. So I think both of them, I can't pick which one is better. Both of them are.
Yeah, I get. I think it's dramatic either way. Yeah. Then I was reading a journal article. They were talking about how, social media has individualized us, that one time a friend lost, like they were best friends, that friend lost like a dad, and this person didn't know what to tell this person. Yeah. So now, like, for you was going through grief and you had these people come over for burial, your friends came to support you. What are some of the worst thing to say to someone who's probably grieving, or what's something you should not say? Because, we usually say everything will be okay, but I don't know if that's the right statement to say. And in such a situation, it's really tricky. Yeah. What advice would you throw on that?
You never really know what to say. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday and I said, as much as I've experienced this, for example, if heaven forbid you lose a parent, I won't know what to say. There's nothing I can say to rationalize that experience. And because out of love, people who love you, they can't sort of sit with the fact that they can't do anything. So they just say whatever comes to mind, but it's from a point of love, no matter how harmful or harmless it may be, right? So just wanted to preface with that, is that it's a very awkward situation. Do you say sorry? But you're not the one who killed that person, so you can't say sorry. Do you say everything happens for a reason? No. Do you say, things will be fine? Well, they will be, but right now they are not, So, but I would say, to answer your question directly, Vambi, do not tell someone to be strong.
Yeah.
I feel like that statement irritated me so much during the passing of my mom, because it is such an invalidating statement. And I'm a firstborn daughter, right? So oftentimes people would tell me, be strong, be strong, be strong. If you break down, what will your sisters do? Be strong. You see, you have to be there for your dad. Be strong, No. And it was like, oh, Angel, you're not allowed to grieve, right? Mm-hmm. Keep your jazz together for your sisters and XYZ. And I think that statement, we really need to erase it from, our vocabulary when it comes to grieving, because this is loss. And the natural reaction to that should be honored and, respected and validated. What are you not supposed to say? I think I just want to say, what are you supposed to do? And nothing specific, but from my experience, a grieving person needs to be held. Hold space for them. If it's in your words, if it's in your actions. And I'll give an example of my friends. When my mom passed, and also just in like the season of illness, we were in hospital, from Uraga Hospital to the Uganda Cancer Institute, XYZ. So, and personally, when my life is a mess, my environment is a mess, right? So I had two friends, Rona and Louisa. When my mom passed, they came home to my home. They washed my dishes. They stocked up my fridge. They cleaned the house. I don't remember them saying sorry. I guess they said like, oh, my condolences. But in them holding space for me in that way, I felt covered. I said, you know what? These people are seeing me and these people are behind me in this season. So I think in whatever way that you can, even through words, I had an uncle who said, Angel, you don't have to be a tough guy. And that's a very, how can you say you don't have to be a tough? Everyone is telling you my condolences. Oh, it is the will of God. Oh, Angel, he gives and takes away. Da, da, da. And for him, he said, Angel, you don't have to be a tough guy. And that was the first time I felt allowed to grieve. I felt like someone had held space, created a vacuum where I could actually and honestly, express what I was feeling. So I think for people who are grieving and going through a season of loss, not necessarily death, it could even be heartbreak. It could be, there's so many variations of loss, so many sources of grief in this world, is to hold space for them. And how do you hold space? Is by being present. Not present physically, but presence of mind. For my friends to notice that, for Angel Singh to look like this is not our Angel. Something is up, right? That required a presence of mind and a certain level of keenness for them to then be equipped with what to do in the best ways to support. I also remember, my friends really, really held me in that moment. When they stocked up my fridge, they didn't just randomly stock up my fridge with random objects. So there's a drink that I like. I don't know if I can even, no, we're not giving them free advertisement. But there's a drink that I like. And last year they released like so many new flavors, right, of that drink. So they stocked up my fridge with every single drink, every single flavor of that drink. I like chicken wings. They stocked it up with chicken wings. And so there was an intentionality. It wasn't like, we're just bringing you Ribena and Lucozade. It was like, Angel, we see you. We're here for you. And this is how we're going to comfort you. Other people can do it through words. But the right words come or are informed by a presence of mind, or it's something in, grief, you can't even forget to eat, right? And so you need that person holding space in that moment is to notice that, Joel, have you eaten? Let me catch you an apple, or let me catch you a pineapple. You're holding space for Joel, without judgment, without also, So I think that's, I would say, what not to say, but don't tell people to be strong. It's such I hate that word. Yeah. I hate that. I hate that phrase and how it comes up, Yeah.
Then do you have siblings? Because you said you know. And then now I want to ask, how do you draw the line between being the strongest person, like a pillar, your siblings to rely on, but still also grieving your own loss? Because it's not just them who have lost someone, you have as well. By being a firstborn daughter, or even if you're male, being a firstborn child, there is that responsibility that latches onto you. So now, like during grief, you want to be strong for your siblings. So how would you draw that boundary of, I'm going to grieve and get over this, but I also have to be strong for these people because they're younger than me? How did you draw that boundary?
Community. It's tapping into a community of my own that can hold space for me. I feel like I'm overusing the word hold space, but like my friends to pour into me. And, my perspective, definition of my role as a firstborn really evolved after my mom's passing. I don't look at it as a burden. I look at it as an honor that this is what, even for my friends, having gone through this, there's a thing of I've gone through this so that when this happens, because it's going to happen, death is inevitable. For my friends, I will be there and support them in the best way that I can, because in a way, now I know what to do and what not to do ish, right? So how do I think you also have to draw boundaries as a firstborn child. Sometimes I just, need my space, physical boundaries where I'm like, I get it, you're grieving and everything, but I'm grieving too, right? So, and there's a guilt to it because you have this savior complex of no. But you realize that if you pour and pour and pour into people and and you're not pouring into yourself, or you're not investing in communities that pour into you, your well will run dry and you're going to disappoint yourself, but also the people that you care for. So with my sisters particularly, I have conversations with them, but I also have friends who I have conversations with. And I've also learned to break that hard guy ice, where just because I'm, like I said, I had this statement a lot. If you cry, what will your sisters do? So it was a thing of, Angel, you are not allowed to cry. Until I said, no, you know what? I'm going to cry. Let me break down in front of my sisters. And I see, their reaction to that. And in becoming more vulnerable with my sisters, there was a leadership to, it's okay, guys. Let's acknowledge this loss. Let's express what we feel. Let's not cocoon, So you have to find a balance of some sort, but it's really in community. And that's something I also learned, because in 2024, I isolated myself so much because there was shame, but also, being the friend who always has bad news.
Yeah.
You feel like, you feel like you're a nimbus cloud over everyone's rainbow, it's Christmas time and now you're grieving, but your friends are going to the village. It's New Year's, but for you, it's not, So I had to intentionally just break free from that mentality of being a burden. And it wasn't only me, it was also my friends who said, Angel, we are here for you. And that's how I'm able to sort of balance being present for my siblings and my family, but also not being drained.
What would be your take on the statement, time heals? Do you think it's valid, or is this something we just throw around?
I think it's very general. And I don't like general because life is so nuanced, right?
Yeah.
Someone can take 10 years to heal. Another one will heal in like 1 month, right? So it's case by case. Time can heal if you're intentional about it, right? It's not just time. There's so many other factors. You need to put in the work, the shadow work, the work of forgiveness, the work of acknowledgement, the work of vulnerability, and XYZ. So time is not the only factor when it comes to the healing process. There are other factors. So there needs to be a certain level of intentionality. And if that intentionality is not there, time will pass and the wounds will still be there. They will still be bleeding, most probably get deeper and darker and more infected. Yeah. So I think it's nuanced.
Okay.
It's nuanced.
But does the wound go away with time, or what? I just want to get like that experience of, I'm now experiencing something bad in my life.
Yeah.
Then I'm grieving, but over 10 years, do you somehow forget? You start celebrating this person. What happens in between that makes you? Yeah.
I think with time comes changes in perspective, right? So in the thick of it, like immediate death or immediate loss, there's a sense of disappointment, there's a sense of betrayal, there's a sense of hopelessness, and then there's anger, there's pain, there's sadness. And then with time, you start looking at it from a point of, I've lost something, to maybe gratitude that, wow, I experienced this person for this amount of time, and from my experience of them, what have I taken and how can I continue to honor them through, the different ghosts that they have left littered over time, right? So people say legacy, but in that moment on the vigil, you're not thinking about legacy. You're thinking about, God, why did you take her now? And then your questions start to evolve with time. But again, you can stay stuck at the same question if you're not intentional about it. And something I learned from loss and grief, not just in terms of death, but in 2024, I lost a lot of people. There's grieving a dead person, and there's grieving a living human being. And I think in my experience, grieving a living human being is so painful because they're there, they exist. And so that this loss is a choice, right? Yeah. So you can stay stuck in that sadness. It gets a little bit addictive, comforting. You can make a home and a shelter out of grief, out of pain. So you need to be intentional in how those questions evolve from why me to what was I learning to where did this come from? How do I, move from this in love? How do I still keep my tenderness, my belief in the goodness of people? Now, seeing a disease such as cancer, it was very easy for me to get paranoid because I've lost 3 family members to the same disease in the same area, gut area. So there's questions of, is this genetic? Angel, am I going to die of cancer as well? So from asking, am I going to die of cancer, to how can I live a healthier life? That comes with time, but also intention. Yeah.
I love you say that change in perspective. Yeah, I think that's what happens. Yeah, you stop looking at the situation a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then how did this, because you lost like 3 people in a row in the same year, did it at all affect your faith?
Yeah, it did. And it affected my faith in the sense that it affected my relationship with the church. Does that make sense? I believed in God, and I still do believe in God, even in the thick of it. But you see, the thing with the church today and how we want to make Christ and God so palatable, commercialized, transactional. And so they are telling you, pray, 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 pray. God is listening. God is listening. If you pray, he will answer your prayers. By his stripes, you are healed, So it's like a transactional thing. And so I realized that God cannot answer your prayers. And he's still good, and as a child of God, it's also okay to be angry with that decision, with his decision. But in church, you're not allowed to be angry with God. You're not allowed to question him. How dare you, So my faith was intact, but I lacked a space to be honest in my grief for a long time and say, okay, I'm actually not happy with God right now. I'm extremely frustrated. I'm extremely confused by why he would let something. And that does not mean I'm taking away from his power. But yeah, I am, why? God, why? So that's how it affected my faith. And I think it affected my faith positively because I began to ask questions and be more intentional about why I believe in what I believe, be more intentional in the community, the Christian community, be intentional with how I read the word, and why I actually believe in God. It's not because of what he can give me type of situation. Because if that was the case, then I have every reason not to believe in him. Every single reason. And there are some people, in my family who said, man, peace, we're done with this. We're done with this because of there's too much disappointment, you know? Yeah, so that's how it impacted my life. My faith.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask, because like an objective, third party or third viewer, someone would say that your work ethic is amazing, according to your performance. So how did this, I think it's a 2-in-1, how did this grief affect your work performance?
Yeah.
Now, the other question would be, most people now, because your line of work, it's more artistic. I don't know if you have like a corporate tying, but what I know of is like it's more artistic. And I think I was reading, was it something I read? I don't know if it was Oscar Wilde or Kafka, but there was something about that. He was saying that there is no poem I wrote when I was happy. I wrote all my poems sad. So now I want to know about your work ethic, and did it improve it because you're more into the artistic side? Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So my professional background is in media and communication, and I did have a office job, NSSF salary at the end of the month job, which was an amazing job at an impact investment firm. I was the head of marketing and communications from, I think, November 2023 to May 2024. I left because I was struggling to balance work and also being present for my mom. So I decided to just do full-time poetry because it's more flexible. You know, I am my boss and I decide when I clock in and clock out type of situation. So in terms of work ethic, how did that season, I think I need to give some context in the sense that 2024 was my worst year, but it was also my best year in so many ways. Career-wise, poetry was growing. I had started digital creation. I was getting noticed by record labels. Swangs reached out to me to perform at Roast and Rhyme, and I performed at Roast and Rhyme, you know, my biggest stage yet. You know, I was growing. I was also still in school and I was top of my class. So I couldn't afford to crash out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so I performed. In a way, I feel I lived a dual life where when I would come to the public sphere, I would perform. It took, many people did not know what I was going through until I said, oh, by the way, I slept in hospital last night, but I'm going to be in class at 8 a.m., you know, when I can. So I would adequately describe it as I was living a double life because I think Robert Greene talks about it, survival for the fittest in human beings. You also can't go, if all of us came to the public square carrying our problems, we would be open to attack. That's like 100% vulnerability. So there was a certain level of composure that I felt I needed to have because I could not afford, literally and metaphysically speaking, to pause. And that's something adulting teaches you. Life goes on. The economy continues. You know, your landlord is still going to ask for rent. Whether you're going through this or what, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that I think was very unhealthy. Yeah. But yeah, so my work ethic, I think it's been the same really always is, you know, there's a time for this. And it's also something I'm passionate about. It's something that I'm building. And so I take it very seriously. Poetry is my first love, you know, and so I pour my all into it. But then coming out of that experience in terms of, what am I creating? I've never written poems. Now after that, so in the process of death, there was also, you know, loss of a partner, romantic love.
Same year?
Yeah, the same year. And I remember speaking to a friend of mine who is like a producer, and he said, Angel, this is the time to write that album. We need that album, Angel. We need that. You are going to be the next Adele of Uganda. But I also have a friend called Wake. And these are people who really held space for me, Wake and Afri. And Wake recommended a book called Keep Your Love On. And it was a book really on how to keep your tenderness, you know, how to keep your power amidst all of this ugliness of the world. And I learned that I am not going to honor betrayal. I'm not going to honor death. I'm not going to honor disease, even in my art. You see, poets, creators, we immortalize things through our work.
Yeah.
And I said, why am I going to immortalize this son of Adam? Surely, why? You know, is he worth my ink? Or why am I going to immortalize these dilapidated hospitals? Are they worth my ink? So I've been very intentional about what I am releasing, you know, what I'm releasing to the public. Of course, art is therapy, you know, you journal, you write and everything. So of course, I have written my way out of those ugly experiences. But for the sake of just releasing that out of my system, not releasing it into the world. And so I want to, how it's informed what I'm creating right now, what I'm working on right now is the lessons, you know. How do I show people that you can honor love? How do I show people that joy comes in the morning? How do I show people that it is actually possible to maintain your tenderness, you know? how, for example, like, you know how people experience heartbreak and then they become, like men are trash or
Yeah.
women are trash merchants. I said, no. I am, a few individuals are not going to make me lose my wonder in humanity, lose my hope that Joel actually is a good guy, that, Trevor is a kind person type of situation. So that's how it has informed my work ethic. I'm not creating to honor the ugliness. I want to salvage the beauty out of that experience, the lessons, and immortalize those for people who are going to most probably experience the same thing as me, but this time they'll have some sort of, wouldn't say blueprint, but a pacifier, something to restore hope or something of the sort. But for me, it's just a personal decision. There are some things that are not worth my ink, and it really showed me that.
So this would be like the last question. What would you tell someone who's like going through they're grieving freshly, it's a fresh wound?
Yeah.
Like one word of advice or a sentence, what would that be?
Sit with it. Sit with it. Sit with it. Sit through it.
Mm-hmm.
Do not run away from it. Acknowledge every emotion as it comes. My favorite poem is The Guest House by Rumi. And it says, this being human is a guest house, every emotion of a passing visitor, something of the sort. So start with the anger, start with the disappointment, with the grief, with the confusion, and sit with it, acknowledge it. And you will sort of pick the pigments apart and sort all of those things out. Sit with it.
It's nice that you've said sit with it, because I was reading Dr. K's thing about trauma, and he was saying like it's a very common effect on men, but women do it too, whereby we feel like a fix will, make the trauma go away. So he was giving an example of if you're a man and maybe you lost like someone you love, or maybe you lost a parent, you'll want to say, if I make $1 million this year, maybe then I'll feel better about myself. So he gave the analogy of, imagine there is a glass, then we piss in it, but then you add sugar and then you add chocolates, the piece won't go away.
Yeah.
The piece is still there. So it's the thing you said, you dissect you sit with it and you try to dissect and try to, because no matter the kind of work you put in, won't make the grief go away. You're still repressing that behavior or that emotion. I think that was brilliant.
And also, like, I will forever grieve my mom.
Yeah.
Like, even I will grieve her, So it's not an issue of going away or making it disappear. It's an issue of how do I live with it? How do I honor it? How do I transform it into something beautiful? How do I refine it? From a sense of loss and shame to honor, and like, oh my God, this was an amazing human being. She was a convener. How can I, honor her like that? How do I continue that practice? So especially I think when it comes to death, you will always grieve those people. It's just now like, what does grief look like in 10 years from now, vis-a-vis in 2024, Yeah.
Thank you very much for, sharing your experience on this podcast, and I hope it helps someone out there. And, I should have said this at the beginning. Very many people don't know this, but when everything was hard, I remember, was it 2018, 2019? I don't remember. But Trevor and I came to your studio. I don't know, you were operating Motive by then, and you gave us a chance to record some of the audio podcasts for free. I think that was brilliant. I should have mentioned this at the start. It was all Kabera. So if you had
it was also Motive.
Yeah, also Motive. But at least you were supposed to monetize the place for them, but you gave us for free. Motive, so I think that was also kind of you. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have gotten the heads that, push further. And now we're on season 3. I think it was very brilliant. Thank you for appearing here, and I hope your message reaches someone who needs
Fingers
it.
Crossed. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you too.